poor nation edges from Nazi domination to take stock of her land and future. Holland, the diligent little... her own more than the city of New York, but her kingdom swings east and west around the world. Her famous capital, Amsterdam, is often called the Venice of the North. Amsterdam is a charming combination of things new and old. You won't see wooden shoes, lace caps, and the traditional dress when the modern family pedals to market and business. These disappeared long ago from the city streets. Only in some of the farming and fishing districts do folks still cling to the old style. Today, the Queen lives here when she visits Amsterdam. Back in the 17th century, Holland's immortal painters, Rembrandt, Hals, and Vermeer, lived in surroundings like these. The buildings themselves reflect Holland's modern democratic spirit. Her government was one of the first to enact Social Security laws as early as 1901. She can be proud of her leadership in the newest of architecture and city planning. Modern dwellings, office buildings, and apartment houses have grown up in many of the ancient cities. Hollanders can travel about the country either on one of the many highways or in speedy electric and diesel trains which provide the Netherlands with one of the most efficient railway systems in the world. A myriad of gaily colored flowers dot the fields where hundreds of years ago the first bulbs imported from faraway lands were planted. The flowers are pretty, but relatively unimportant, though every care must be lavished on the bulbs which are exported by the millions. No legendary sailor is the Flying Dutchman of 20th century Holland. He's the industrious pilot who flies around the world several times a month as part of his routine job. If he's a Royal Dutch Airlines pilot, he usually flies an American-made plane. But Holland itself manufactures aircraft of international renown. The Dutch may point with the greatest pride at the dikes which protect much of their below sea level land. A quarter of their land they conquered, not by the usual bloodshed and gunpowder, but with sweat and toil and perseverance. They wrested their land from the ocean and, at the same time, provided themselves with an efficient network of canals. The map of North Holland province pictures this conquest. Today you see solid land, where less than 300 years ago, islands rose from the ocean. The Dutch pushed back the ocean to tie up this string of islands to the mainland, thus adding rich acres of soil to the original slim boundary lines. Holland startled the engineering world when they began their largest reclaiming job in 1920. The famous Zuyder Zee still separated the northern peninsula from the mainland, threatening the dike walls and periodically overflowing in costly floods. With a great 18 miles long dike across its throat, they would bottle up the Zuyder Zee. They planned to add 4 sections of land or polders by draining the biggest part of the Zuyder Zee. In the center would be an artificial lake called IJssel Lake, 16 inches below the level of the North Sea. The northwest polder was the first to be completed. Dike building is not for the impatient. It took centuries of back-breaking experiment to provide these workers with the know-how of reclamation. Step by intricate step, these men achieved their satisfying goal. of the work nowadays still has to be done by hand, there is no doubt but that their fathers before them would envy the more recent aid of machinery, which partly takes the place of many painstaking procedures. Outlets must be provided for the rivers. Locks and pumping installations regulate the water level for the new waterborne traffic. On a dike anyway. Families which have moved in on the reclaimed land have the protection of repair crews constantly working to keep the dike in first-rate condition. And so now there is solid land where once there was water. No other nation can look at its map with the same pride and say, "This we made with our own hands." What other people can farm where their ancestors used to fish? The famous Dutch cattle graze contentedly in the rich new meadows. Settlers were attracted by the new land and built their homes and villages here. The Dutch have always been known for their deep religious convictions. They have always been respected as a peace-loving people.